Hey guys, existential depression and crying and being useless for about half of my day here. It's not very nice, but yeah, I haven't had the best day here. Doing better now though. I'm gonna talk about a project a little bit. I have been trying to shoot this video for a while, and I don't know if I'm gonna get a take that I want, because this one's a bit of an important one. I want a video to kind of ground my project and to go over some considerations and some just general information about the project, so I feel a little bit more comfortable with it, and I kind of have like a foundation to refer to. So that I have a little bit of consistency or a bit of organization with the rest of the content, and something that kind of grounds or accounts for, in like a meta way almost, the rest of the content that I want to share. So who is honesty to? What I'm going to do to keep myself organized is I'm going to go through a list of who, how, what, when, where, and why, and how. I think I said how twice. And I think as I do that, it might give you a little bit of a sense of the intuitive sort of nature, the implicit sort of nature of the thing, and I can do my best to sort of explain what I think the project is, what it means to me, what my intent is with it as I see it. But I think I can only point so much, and I can give my best guess. It's something I think about, because I like to be considerate and as accurate as possible when it comes to things that are important to me and my own sort of understanding and consideration of it. But I'm under the belief that I can never fully grasp the thing. I can never fully explain what it is exactly this is about, what exactly I'm doing, because I can give reasons and explanations, but then I can explain those explanations, and I can explain the explanations of the explanations of the explanations, and I get into a kind of there's a specific word for that, where something just repeats over and over again. But yeah, like a loop of never-ending sort of explanation and consideration. I guess that's why we practically communicate ourselves, and we try and explain our reasoning as concisely as possible, or give our best sort of general explanation, and also kind of accounting for the fact that we can't ever sort of have the whole thing. We can never fully reach a kind of conclusion within reasoning, I think. But I'm not really sure. That's just kind of my best take on that now. So the first thing is that I don't really have answers. I don't really know what the project's about. I'd like to think that I have a general idea, but really it just started for me wanting to sit down and share my ideas. I see the thing as a safe space for experimentation in the practical art of self-expression. It sounds kind of nerdy. I find it hard to express myself sometimes. I have all these different thoughts and feelings and these things that sort of slosh around my mind, and I don't know how to share that with my world. How much do I share? How much do I not share so much? How do I make it into something which is accessible, which is understandable? And I think that we all have a certain importance to us, and I think that when our importance, it's tricky, because we can either have too much of it, where we think that we're the most important, we're somehow special, we're separate, we're different, we're above, or we're the opposite, where we're below, and we're not special, we're not important, we don't know. We either know or we don't know. And I think that both of those have their baggage. And I think that we all have a certain importance to us. I think we all have a mind. We all have these bodies, if we're humans, whatever we are, whatever you are watching. I'm gonna work with me being a human with a mind and all. So we have these minds and these bodies, and we have this ability to create and to influence. We have this sort of capacity to us, and we can think and we can understand, and we're doing this sort of dance here, and I think that's important. It is, I want to say it's almost sacred. It's wholly unique. Each and every one of us, we all have our own sort of individuality, we all have our own sort of potential and our own ability to create. And with that, when we ignore that, when we ignore our own best, our own ability to, I don't know, to do some sort of good, to just express ourselves, and when we miss out on the necessity of that, I think that we lose out on the richness of life. We lose out on our, I want to say, our purpose. Our purpose here is to be ourselves, I think, whatever that is. And, oh man. You see, I'm losing it because I don't really know. I don't really know what makes us important, what makes us special. I don't really know how I know that I feel like I have something important to say, that I feel like I have something of value to share, that my ideas and my thoughts and my own being matters or is important or is worth caring about. That's kind of strange, because when I look, we make these sort of comparisons between ourselves and between other people, and we're constantly kind of trying to adhere to a certain good, and we realize it's determined by our culture, it's determined by our environment. We have that sort of relativity to our values, to what's important to us, and when we're not adhering to that, when we're not embodying that, we're bad, we're diminished. And I think that we have to set, I have an itchy scab. Oh man, this has already gone way off the deep end. This is why it's so tricky, because I try and talk about these sort of ideas, and I try and probe into some stuff, and I don't really know, and I get sort of lost, and I get frustrated, and I lose the thought, I lose the idea. Well, this is honest. I don't know. I don't know what makes us important. I don't know why we should share ourselves. Why are we worth anything? What makes us what we say we are? How do we know that we're good? How do we know that we're enough? How do we know that we're important? How do we know that we're not just bullshitting ourselves? What even is importance? What even is value? Whenever I look to try and ground that in something, I just come up empty-handed. And everything in my life where I've assumed that if I reach some sort of potential, I would find this value, I would find this wholeness, I would find this goodness. And whenever I've looked, whenever I've attained, or I've gotten to the end of these sorts of pursuits, it's always fleeting. It's never, there's always a new problem, there's always a new kind of insufficiency, there's always a new insecurity. And maybe if I'm honest, I'm not worth shit. And I think that's uncomfortable, because we should be confident, we should be important. You gotta speak your truth, man. You gotta speak what's important to you. But what if your truth is full of shit? What if you don't know? What if you're spouting nonsense? And what if you're just fucking shooting yourself and others in the foot, and you're pretending that you know something that you don't? and you're just bullshitting? And what if you realize that you're doing that, but then how do you know that you're doing that or not? Because if you're bullshitting, if you're bullshitting and that you're saying that you're bullshitting, then then are you bullshitting then? Because it's like a paradox. It's like everything I say is a lie. So that would mean that that's a lie. So you get into this kind of paradox of, I find I can go down these sorts of rabbit holes, and I get into this sort of mode of wanting to understand some shit, asking some questions, and it can be confusing, and I get so frustrated with life, honestly. I get so frustrated with not understanding my reality and running into these sorts of bumps. And I think this project is really a means to try and find some sort of grounding or truth within the uncertainty. Because you want to know what the truth is? This is the truth. This is my truth. I don't know. I'd love to come on here and I'd love to have all the answers and I'd love to know what I'm talking about. And I think there's a time for that. Maybe there's a time where I could try and be a bit more organized, or I could try and give a bit more of a shit. I could try and be a bit more clear, have something important to say. But I think it's equally as important to not fucking know and to integrate the wholeness of this experience, which includes, oh fuck, me pooping my pants and not knowing what the fuck to say and wanting to turn the camera off, wanting to not exist a little bit and feeling frustrated, feeling like fuck, eh? And I find when I take ownership of that and I notice that and I fucking embody that and I stick with it, I stay with it, and I own what I feel like I can't do, and I respond, and I see this sort of perceived deficiency of myself, I can take responsibility and I can respond to that and I can make something out of it which is maybe helpful. And I think that's where my value comes from. My value comes from my ability to, and I think what value is, maybe the thing is meaningless. Maybe there is no value. Maybe there is no importance. And saying that there's no, because if you say that there's no meaning to anything, isn't that just another meaning of meaning? You know, like, you can't get around what this is, what our existence is. Like, it's so hard to not grasp when you're using your mind, when you're using your sort of limited intellectual understanding to try and get at these things. And I think all of our reasoning, it all kind of stands on toothpicks, at least mine. And I feel like it's always in flux, and it's so insecure sometimes, but it's also so, I want to say, necessary, because I think we need a self. We need to acknowledge our own importance. We need to acknowledge value. We need to give a shit about our lives. We need to pay attention. We need to do good. But we need to know what is good. What the fuck are we doing? How do we know that we're doing good? And I think we don't know. I think that's why it's always changing. I think that's why our culture, our individuality, our what's important to us is always changing, because we're figuring it out. And I think that's important. I think the fact that importance isn't objectively defined is closer to what importance is, maybe. And I think with this project, I'd love to just have it in my hands. I would love to have some sort of epistemic clarity with all careful, rigorous reasoning, and to just present it to you here and to just have it ready for your enjoyment. But I've recorded this 7-8 times now, and it never goes the way that I want, and I find it so hard, this video especially, to just encapsulate what this project means to me and to have it done in a way which is satisfying to me, because I feel like I can never be satisfied with ideas, with understanding, with my own sort of grasp on life sometimes. And I think the real heart of this project is to take ownership of that sort of process and to take responsibility and to do my best to express myself to the world and to do better and to be the change I want to see in this world through honesty, through self kind of acceptance, through accepting this process, through accepting my limited sort of grasp on my life, and through persevering through the chaos of that, through the fucking discomfort of it. And I think that that's important to me, because what else would I do? I can't get around that. I can't get away from that. I can't get away from life as much as I'd like to, as much as sometimes, this is a pain in the ass and I'd like it to be otherwise. Sometimes I would like to not have to take responsibility. And I find when we accept that there's no way out of our survival, out of our will to live, our undeniable will to live. Because even when we don't will to live, I think the will to die is still the will to live. Because when you want to die, you still want. And I think that death itself, the act of dying, is just more of life. And I think that death itself, this is radical, I think that death is life. And I think that an end is just the beginning. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not encouraging anyone to kill themselves or to do that, but that's a part of the experience. Death. Considering death. What is death? Are we not always dying every day? Is everything not always dying? Does anything stay the same? Does anything ever stay in one place forever? Is this not death itself right here? I don't know. I think this kind of off the rails sort of crazy man sort of thing that just happened in the last 18 minutes of me recording this is a pretty good take on what this project is kind of about, where I would like a space to just kind of be myself and to share my experience intimately for the sake of self-acceptance and learning to express myself, learning to take this kind of disorganization and to do something with it, to do something good and practical, and to have the wisdom to know what that is, and to have the wisdom to recognize that I don't know, and that I don't think I'll ever know. Anyways, honesty 2 about